Computer. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with a wonderful and beautiful veteran named Amanda Allen. It's so nice to meet you, Amanda.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's nice to finally meet you.
Yeah, and like what I said in the beginning, when you followed me, I went on your profile and I saw you were all about jewelry and you were a veteran, and I was like, that's my jam. I need to connect with her. I need to like hear her story because I'm so passionate about creativity for grief and for trauma.
Yeah, I love that. You said that art and creativity was how you metabolize trauma and your experiences. And I just absolutely love how you put that, metabolizing the grief and the trauma. I'm gonna have to incorporate that. That's a really good way of putting
Well, I used to metabolize because I'm all about the food. So that made sense to me.
it. I'm all about the food too, but hey, I like sparkly things. So, yeah. Did you want to start out with how I started? It hasn't, it's only been a couple years of me making jewelry, so it's not like a, super detailed thing, but I'd like to, kind of put out there, if anybody can get just one thing out of this, I'd just like for them to, just open their mind to maybe different methods, different ways, more holistic ways of doing things. You know, well,
Yeah, because there's so many options out there.
there is so many options, so many resources that we don't necessarily know about all the time. You know, I like to share those when I have the opportunity.
Yeah, well, I'm very grateful that you're here and sharing your story. And I wanted to just first read your bio so the listeners can hear the beautiful bio that you have on your website. Her company's name is Exit Wounds Jewelry, which I thought that was so uniquely created. So I just want to read this quickly. This is a uniquely inspired wearable art pieces crafted by a female veteran using art as a means of therapy. Art therapy has been proven to be a beneficial tool in navigating the recovery from the invisible wounds of war. It is very fulfilling to be able to call myself an artist and a blessing to have found my calling again after the military. I'm using this as a stepping stone towards gaining a peace of mind in a world full of chaos. Mental and emotional health is my focus in healing the invisible wounds of war. My work is my passion, not making things that people will love. This art therapy venture is about me and my healing process, even if others can't see it that way. I use my newly discovered creative freedom to speak without words in my own personal way. I love that. I love that it's a passion and you're making it about you and just sharing whoever's interested, this is what I make, but this is about those invisible wounds that, that you can't see. And I can
Yeah.
feel that passion just reading that.
Well, it sounds so much better coming out of your mouth. I'll tell you that. It took me a long time to come up with a bio, an artist bio. It's something that I had to really look at when I had to start creating, websites and social media and try to get rid of all of these awesome things that I keep creating. I can't just hold on to them all. I have to share with the world. So,
Yeah.
I'm pretty impressed. Thank you.
Oh yeah, your jewelry's beautiful, and I love your bio. And I want to just rewind a little bit. And we talked about before we came on live or recorded, but your time in the military and what led you to this path of using jewelry making. I'd love to know.
Um, yeah, so I guess I'll start out with kind of where I began and kind of backtrack from there to make it make sense. So like COVID happened, right? And the VA kept just canceling appointments, and we couldn't get in, and you couldn't go anywhere. We're just locked up, and you couldn't even barely get a virtual call with your mental health doc. And it was about that time that I really um, kind of made the commitment within myself to really hammer down on my mental health and getting better instead of carrying on this kind of, you know, uh, just broken person. You know, I didn't want to accept that. So I, I didn't really know what else to do other than just read a ton of books. So I kind of thought, what used to bring me peace, and happiness, kind of even when I was a child. And I remembered I used to make jewelry all the time when I was a kid, and I really enjoyed doing it. And just not just putting like beads on a string, but kind of make it interesting and make it me and unique and all that. And so I said, all right, well, I guess I'll just give that a try. And I had some old jewelry laying around, a lot of stuff that I picked up like when I was overseas, really cheap, getting gemstones over there and like jewelry and stuff like that. So I just tore it all apart and I used like the beads from it to make these really awesome like bracelets and hat bands, and I started making like belts and stuff. I just wild. And what I noticed was, during the time that I was just sitting in like creating, I was like actually I felt peaceful, and I was able to focus on this one, beautiful thing, and whatever it turns out to be, it turns out to be. But I have the ability to kind of, pick things apart and organize them in a way that's really more healthy and effective and beneficial to my mental health instead of just stagnant, the poor me pity party area that we kind of find ourselves in a lot of times. And so I went wild on that, and I found a couple other veterans, and they asked me to make them some stuff, and I just started selling all of the pieces that I made out of like the beads that I got from you know something overseas, or maybe just an old bracelet that I've been holding on to since like fifth grade for no reason, and just it came became a process of like letting go and sort of a little bit of like an exposure kind of therapy, I guess, because it would break my heart sending these things out and knowing that I'm never going to see them again, you know. It broke my heart, but it was actually like also a huge relief, and that relief just overpowered that heartbreak. It was like, what was I ever going to do with that? What? There's nothing. I was just going to sit in a box and just be a pile of stuff I never look at it. So, and then things started calming down, got back into the doctor. I actually have found a doctor that kind of complementing the therapy with my art. So, I kind of report to her, hey, this is what I made. I just painting or whatever, and she's incorporated it in therapy school. And I'll tell you, I'm 100% off all the VA meds. I think it's been probably about a year now. I've never felt better. Like I've never felt more clear and uh, peaceful, and it's just the whole. However it happened, it happened perfectly, and I'm really happy for
What did you say your MOS was, or what did you do in the army? I forgot to
it.
ask you that.
Oh yeah, 31 Bravo and MP.
You guys
Yeah,
have
the Blue
you guys have,
Falcon.
you guys have a tough job.
It is pretty tough. Yeah, we went over there. Our mission overseas was to kind of train the Afghan police how to be police, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, and their culture isn't doesn't jive very well with me being a female, and trying to work inside. They you know, you earn their respect, after a while, after some time working with them. It's it was pretty difficult, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. The experience I had.
So when you came back from that deployment, you brought some mental chatter from that experience back with you?
Chatter, yeah, yeah, a lot of mental chatter. Um, I think it's hard to kind of snap out of that um hyper vigilant state. I don't think they don't teach you that. Um, and so a lot of us, we kind of just come home and we figure out that, hey, American food is super tasty. Haven't had it in quite some time, and beer is even better. We just start getting lost in the unhealthy habits and coping mechanisms. At some point in time, you find yourself looking in the mirror and you're 200 pounds and burnt all the bridges in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's
it took me a couple years, but I got out of the military in 2013. I moved to Texas in 2015, uh, and after I moved to Texas, it was just a game changer. I had to get out of there and kind of start over fresh, and I'm very thankful that I was able to here because I don't know, who knows where I'd be.
so oh, um well, thank you. First of all, thank you for sharing your a little bit of your experience down there because I can be a little bit sensitive to talk about, depending what veteran we're talking, who we're talking to. And I'm glad you mentioned the word vigilance because I was thinking that in my mind because you had to be hyper vigilant, and then you're also dealing with the cultural differences of being a woman there. I mean, I was in Afghanistan and Iraq, and I was around um, in those remote villages. For a woman to see another woman in pants with a weapon standing shoulder to shoulder with a male counterpart as an equal is very different.
Yeah,
So you have a lot of eyes on you.
yeah, a lot, a lot.
And then
Yeah,
I,
it's a really interesting feeling, too, with, because you don't know, if they absolutely hate you and want to kill you, or if they're thankful that you're there. It could go either. It was
yeah,
interesting. You never knew, and that kind of that feeling of, you roll out of the gate and you're like, well, maybe this is the day that I don't roll back in that gate. Yeah, you know. So it's it's hard, but the transition is it's a lot easier when you have some guidance. And I think that unfortunately, that's shortcoming on the military. Kind of not preparing us properly, with the mental health services. Kind of, the stigma was, you're weak if have problems like that. So you don't deal with it until like you're out.
well, that's why I'm so grateful that you're here sharing this because I'm sure there are some people, on this Instagram account that are still active duty.
Yeah.
You never know how the effect you have on somebody just by sharing your story.
Well, there's an incredible amount of resources for anybody to take advantage of. Uh, you just gotta look for them, and Google is absolutely amazing for that too.
Yeah, you're right.
So there's a resource for just about anything.
So you had quite a transition going from very hyper-vigilant environment to going home. And it sounds like COVID was that kind of that space you needed to explore this, jewelry making.
Yeah, I kind of call it a blessing in disguise. I because I don't know. It was I was just always just go and kind of always looking for the next adrenaline rush all the time and trying to fit that the sense of importance again. in any way that I could, and just nothing would work. And now I don't feel that, you know, and it's fine. I don't have to be a huge badass. I can just sit here and produce my crystals all day, and that's perfectly fine.
I was looking at your website, I was looking at your jewelry, and I really want to buy the turtle. I'm not able to buy it right now, but that's the one I went through all your jewelry and looking, I kept going back to the turtle. And I was looking at it because you have a lot of knots in yours.
Yeah, it's really it's intricate. It's complicated. It
So
is.
all the knots and the beadwork, I mean, how can you not be laser focused while you're sitting there making all those knots and putting all those beads in and just get very I understand as a creative person how you can get very laser focused on that, you know, and that feeling of letting that go, but you're it's almost of a form of a release.
Yeah,
You letting
absolutely.
that experience that I mean it just sounds it feels very medicinal when you're talking and then that releasing of giving that away to somebody else. It's like you
Yeah,
transmuted that pain and that trauma into beauty, into somebody can experience that and wear that.
yes, yes, and I love even more when people they buy something from me or and they appreciate what's actually behind it, not just it being like really pretty. You know, uh, people understand like there's a lot behind this piece. And I try to communicate that with them if it's a really special piece. Like I was kind of going through something when I was making it, or I designed it for a reason. There's a theme or something to it. Sometimes explain it to them if they buy it, or you know I give stuff away way more than I should. Killing me. I need to stop. But it feels good, and especially when I can tell somebody about, this piece that's on my wrist that they just absolutely love. They comment on, I can tell them a little bit about it. Then I end up making a longtime friend down the line. They, buy pieces for me on holidays and birthdays, ask me to do custom stuff and trust me with the, artistic creative freedom. They kind of just give me an idea of something to work with. And I some lady the other day, she's got 3 kids, and 2 of them are autistic, and her teenage son is going through stuff. And instead of making 4 pieces, I ended up making like 13. I just sat there, and he's like, I get up and I look at the clock, and, get my coffee or whatever. I sit down and I'm just in it. And then all of a sudden I look up and it's like 7 o'clock at night. And I'm like, wow, where did that go?
Yeah, you can get it,
But it's
you can get
great.
into the zone. You can get into the zone quick and just time just is non-existent.
Now it's wild how that works out. It's irritating to some of the family members, but whatever. They like my shiny stuff too.
I think it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I
Uh,
like doing it.
well, and you brought up a good point. What brings me joy? And you said that a little bit ago, and you were thinking about the jewelry you said you made as a child. And I think that's a beautiful discovery to have in during COVID to have.
Yeah, there's a lot of idle time to do a lot of deep thinking and soul searching, kind of forced you into the uncomfortable places in your head that you just kind of push away because it's easier to forget about it than to deal with it. And then all of a sudden it just pops up one day and you're like, oh, all right, here we go. Let's see how this goes. But it really it did actually it's weird to say because it was just absolutely such a horrible time, but I gained a whole lot out of my falls, a lot of growth, so much. And I got up all the poisons that they keep tossing down our throat. and I'm pretty proud about that. Literally have not
That's
felt.
amazing. That's amazing alone.
Yeah,
Do
it
that.
it feels great. Yeah, because really, it's like how much are you actually receptive to when you're being just numbed? You know, they could therapy the crap out of you and just eh, where's it actually going? If you just so I had to really actually feel everything, and I did. It was rough getting off those things, but I was able to get into therapy as well, so it kind of all went hand in hand. It was pretty smooth and safe. I didn't just quit taking it.
Yeah, so it was done.
You
It was done in a controlled manner, and it sounds like you were in that clinical environment with a therapist as well. And
everybody was on the same page with it.
yeah, and the fact that you're able to I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm sorry. It was just except the the VA doctors that do it, but it's the vet center and they can't be out here, which is a vet center. We don't have a vet center, but this place called Camp B is they've covered down on that. So I've been seeing a therapist. That's
Yeah.
huge, huge lifesaver, and they've helped so much.
So you really had a space of clarity and not creating an environment where you were suppressing this experience. Sounds like you were really being very present and very open to the experience instead of going the other way of suppressing it and numbing it.
Yes, yeah, I didn't give myself the option to suppress, the avoidance. Like I recognized actually what avoidance was because I thought, in my head, avoidance, when they ask you all those questions, do you avoid, this or kinda, I don't just run away, but I definitely check out, disassociate 1000%. It could be right in front of my face, but I'm just not there. You know,
So, where do you feel like you are in your healing journey? Do you think you have released and healed all this trauma, or do you consider it to be kind of a daily work in progress?
it's definitely a daily work in progress. It's a whole lifetime worth of, it's not just military, you know, stuff that I get to deal with. It's stuff that happened before and after, based off of just different life experiences or at the time, and bad decisions on my part too, and bad decisions, people treat me bad, but um, there's only so much that I can take responsibility for, and I'm learning that uh, what is um kind of really important for me in my process right now is like forgiving myself, apologizing to myself. I can apologize to everyone for everything, even stuff that I'm not responsible for. And I've done that for so long. And it's time for me to just kind of be selfish, and there's nothing wrong with that. The inward leaning inward is actually something that I'm working on right now. So it's absolutely a work in progress. A lot of stuff that just pops up, the old things, or even just new stuff, big stressful events. But I can honestly say that 2 years ago, I would be handling things completely different. Probably wouldn't be having a conversation right now.
No.
Probably not. No. 2 years ago, no, absolutely not. I would do absolutely everything in my power to avoid it and come up with every excuse in the book to not do it.
Why would you not want to do it?
Because it's just, I couldn't ever get past um, just my anxiousness. I get so anxious to the point where I just function, and I'd just be weeks locked up in my house, just doing what, just avoiding everything, avoiding the potential for everything. So
And look at you now.
here I am.
Yeah. And you brought up a good point about the forgiving yourself. We so think about everybody externally that we need to forgive and give grace to. And then it's like, well, what about us? We're like the last ones to forgive ourselves, give ourselves
Yeah.
grace.
Yeah, it's rough and it's a hard thing to kind of comprehend and initiate doing in your life, but it's really important because it does come a time, if you're at the point where you're just not getting anywhere, well, something's got to change. The only person and thing that can do it would be yourself. So, um, you, anything you can do, just looking inward is probably one of the most important things. And while
Mhm.
you look inward, just make sure that you're having that conversation with your old self and kind of, if you have to explain it, be like, hey man, you're not experienced back then when, you wouldn't have known better at that time. There's no way you could have known better. Sure, you could have handled it a different way, but you didn't. And here we are. Yeah. Inner monologue. Don't be sitting there talking to yourself like I do.
Oh, I am quite chatty myself too. And whenever I do like these interviews, or if I do any of my holistic work that I do, whatever the experience is, it's always being mirrored back to me on things that I need to hear for myself. So I take it in as well, that forgiveness, giving myself grace. So I hear it and I take it in for myself as well.
So I love it. I got a comment on your background. Have you ever heard of kintsugi art?
Um,
Japanese kintsugi art? Okay, I'm just going to explain it to you as quick as I can in a nutshell. I hope it makes sense. But so there's this Japanese art form, and it's called kintsugi. And what it is, it's like pottery. So broken pottery, they join it back together with this epoxy that has gold in it.
I
So
have
when you put it back together, it's got the gold seams, and you're kind of reinventing the meaning of imperfection by adding value, and that it's signifying sorry my dog, it's signifying a lesson learned, growth, or if it's missing a chip, then hey, guess what, you're filling that thing even more with gold, you
yeah.
know so I think that that's really cool. It popped in my head because I'm looking at your back, what it looks
This is a wall divider. And like I told you before I got on, before when recorded, I went through a divorce, 19 years. So when I moved down here to Florida, I wanted peace and tranquility in this house. So I have
like.
golds and I have silvers and I have feathers and the Buddha out front. So I was very intentional about choosing the colors and the flow of my home.
Awesome.
It's just me and the two cats, because color, I'm sure even with your jewelry making, colors are very they all have a meaning behind it and the stones behind it.
For sure. Yeah, and here I am looking like I'm in a casino.
Oh, I love
This
it.
is my studio. I love it. It's we live in a really, really, really old house. Just brick walls, wood ceiling, just wide, wide open. So it's just absolutely perfect spot for my studio. We didn't really think of it when we bought
Well,
the house.
I'm glad you're recording in here in your
Yeah.
space. And yeah, and I was wondering as you were talking, has your relationships changed going through this process?
Yeah. Actually, I've actually lost quite a few.
That's interesting.
And it's not that I called somebody up or somebody called me up like, hey, you know, talk. So I'm deleting on Facebook. It's just the people that people fade away. People are in and out of your life, and the ones that actually matter and have an actual meaning and a purpose in life stick around. I'm not the best at reaching out to people, but what I found happened was, you know, as I gained this peace, people kind of started falling away. and that's fine. You know, we can still chit chat on comments, Facebook and Instagram, stuff like that, but not, you know, breaking myself for people anymore, going out of my way for people that, are just going to and people, people understand that, and a lot of people are super duper supportive. I have a ton of people still in Michigan. I grew up in Michigan, uh, that just hit me up all the time, just like my biggest fans by myself. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. I've kind of figured out more on a deeper meaning of friends and acquaintance. Most of the people in my life have been an acquaintance, but I just wanted to, I wanted to be wanted so bad that it didn't matter who it was, I guess. So I'd overlook the more toxic traits. And now that I am seeing more clearly, then I just, my peaceful world has built out the, the toxicity for the most part. Always got some hanging around.
There's something that I was told once: when you raise your vibration, the people around you are either gonna work to raise their vibration and meet yours, or they're gonna fade away. And that's what it sounds like what happened, because it makes people uncomfortable, and that's why they just fold, they just fall away to the wayside just naturally, you know.
Yeah. As soon as I started, creating more boundaries for myself and, you know, uh, getting rid of, I don't even drink. We don't go out, we don't party, we don't do these things that a lot of these people still do. And, we got kids and a life and art now. And it's, I just gotta keep the peace in any way that I can.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
And
I
then you
love
you probably gained a lot of new friends too from this whole
a lot
journey.
of new, more, yes, absolutely. The Pink Berets, the Veteran Service Organization out of San Antonio, and they're the ones that kind of found me, and they like, oh, we love your jewelry. Come teach some classes with us on Zoom and stuff. And my stuff is so complicated that it takes way too long. So I don't think like virtual classes doing this kind of stuff, really works. So they just started inviting me to all their retreats, and I get to go and hang out and eat really good food and, do all the awesome activities they have going on, and um, uh, teach them, face to face how, what this means to me, and how to do it. And if they enjoy it, then they can carry it on home, and I'll help them out. I've actually gotten on a couple different Zoom calls with some ladies that just loved it, and they're actually making jewelry on their own now. And I
See,
sent them like a loom and some beads and some needles. I hooked them all up, and they're just kicking butt. They got their moms started. They're doing art craft shows and stuff. Great.
spreading the love.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's really great. It's even better when you can really see that like somebody has really caught on to like the deeper meaning of, using creativity, no matter what it is, not just jewelry or painting or, writing or singing, but any could be anything. You know, it's just when you see that kind of click, like the light bulb moment, it's just really great.
I wanted to as we wrap up for tonight, I first wanted to say on your website, I love that picture. I don't know whose idea that was for your picture. That is true. I'm a lover of polarity, and you have the masculine of the soldier, and then the creatress on the side, the feminine energy on both sides. I mean, I was like, and that alone
So
is very powerful. I love that picture.
yeah, he did so good. It's a photographer. His name is Matt Hudson out of Austin, and he had like this vision that he really wanted to do. He had a friend, and I guess she lost her best friend ward, and they had both gotten tattoos of man, I don't even remember what it was. But he had this vision, and he wanted to do it, and he asked, if I had a uniform, and I said, yeah, I need to do something nice for because I was getting married very soon after that. I need to do something nice for my husband too, so maybe he can like frame it, like you know.
Mhm.
But so yeah, that was his vision. He did so good, and he's like, hey, just use this how you want to use it. I thank you for letting me do that. Yeah, that's one of my favorite pictures ever.
I love it. I'm making that the thumbnail for this recording. It's just I love contrast.
Yeah, I love.
So, what would you say to a veteran listening to this right now that is very hyper vigilant, been on a couple deployments, dealing with a lot of trauma, and is doing a lot of numbing stuff and doing a lot of suppression? What things? There's a couple things you would want to share. It's a kind of open,
Yeah,
but
so it's just something that I kind of chuckled about in the beginning because I was like, that's just ridiculous, whatever. Breathing exercises. I'm telling you. I did. I've done some EMDR therapy with my
yes.
doctor. We just started kind of. I was doing CPT, and now we've kind of integrated the EMDR at the end, so I can be sent off into the world. Great, and it really taught me how to kind of. Well, it's basically meditation, and I've been getting good practice by how I can focus in on my jewelry and stuff like that. But before that, really focusing and being quiet, focusing on your breathing and counting and uh, kind of controlling your thoughts. It's a huge struggle, but if you work on it, practice really does make perfect. It's really actually beneficial if you're spun up, you kind of you just feel like you're gonna explode. Um, but I would really like for people to kind of look outside of the box with their mental health. There's more options than just sitting in front of a doctor
Mhm.
and answering questions and opening up a can of worms, and then in 60 minutes you're out the door and you see them in a week, maybe 2 weeks,
Hey,
or and they give you another prescription or up that prescription or give you one to counteract the side effects for the next. Um, look into what's deeper, like where is it rooted at? Because you're not just miserable, you're miserable for a reason. And if you can really just start picking it apart with guidance with a therapist, but then also if you just, I mean, it sounds ridiculous, it's simple, but just a piece of printer paper and your kid's crayon. If you're a Marine, I'm sure you're very used to crayons. So just bust them out and like whatever you're feeling, just put some colors on lines, scribble, just cake the color on there, scratch it, glue stuff, cut it apart and tape it back together. Whatever you got to do, just refocus everything that feels like it's about to just explode and focus it on something else. And then you can pick that thing up and you can look at it later and be like, man, I was really going through something with that. And you can kind of make sense of it. And if you have something tangible, um, for me at least, if I have something like tangible, not just like a piece of paper with some words on it, read this and then do this worksheet. No, I gotta have something. I gotta be doing it. I have to be doing it. So, I mean, if you're anything like me, that I'd suggest giving it a try. And if you never, if you've been always thinking that, I've never been creative, I've never been artistic, I've never been good at painting or drawing or sketching or writing or anything, you don't have to, because really nobody needs to see it
All
at
right.
all. You can keep that stuff in a drawer and never look at it again, or just you look at it or share it with somebody later. But really, it doesn't have to go anywhere. You don't have to explain it to anybody. And I kind of think of it like you're kind of speaking without words in a way. The colors mean something. Just randomly pick a color if you need to. Don't think too much into it. Just grab
Yeah, and I could speak all night about doing the art there, because it's the colors that you choose, how heavy your hand is on the paper, how it's moving, is it jagged, is it fluid? There's so much,
something.
because it's accessing a different part of the brain. Um, and like I said, I can talk all about this, and you realize, wow, I was really mad, or I was really upset. And you start seeing things that you see the experience from just a different lens, because it's a different part of the brain. I think it's like the right side of the brain, your creative side. So, and I
Yeah.
think,
And then you can look at it like a year from then and it could mean something completely different.
and I think correct me if I'm wrong. Is EDMR to help you desensitize you to an experience? Is that what it's to? So you can look at it without getting so emotionally charged, or am I completely off?
So I think it's more of the relaxation technique.
Okay.
EMDR, she does that with your finger. You got to follow it and
Okay.
close your eyes and says, think about your safe place or whatever. Inhale positivity, exhale all the negativity. It's like gray smoke, just emitting it from your body. Like just and she kind of talked me through it, but it's like a guided kind of meditation sesh,
Okay. Okay.
and that I can bring home and kind of do on my own if I need to, you know. So
Mm.
it's really beneficial. If 'cause I always would get so spun up so quick, so hard for days, just one little thing, and I'm just way up here for like days at a time. So it really it helps with kind of redirecting things
Yeah.
along with this cognitive process here, which is lots of
Sorry for the doorbell. That was delivery for groceries.
work. Oh, well, my dogs are over here making too much noise too, so that's all
It's
right.
life. It's life. Um, is there anything that you would like to offer? Like, how can people get a hold of you? Is there anything promotional that you're running? Is there anything, any like last parting words that you would like to share?
I have no promotions going on right now. I really am trying to like buckle down on updating my website. Uh, and I just feel bad at social media and updating all those things. I just want to like create. I don't want to do all the other stuff. Just uh, I'm really bad at it, but I'm working on it. So you can find my website at www.exitwoundsjewelrydesign.com, or Facebook Exit Wounds Jewelry. I usually have everything pretty well linked. So if you go to the website and the contact me, it'll give you a link to TikTok, Instagram. So it's pretty easy to find.
Perfect. Well, man, I'm so grateful that we connected and you got to share a little bit of your story. And I know, the veterans are going to appreciate hearing a little bit of your world, and how the power of creativity and how it can really help with trauma. I love that you talked about being present, the breath, not suppressing and not numbing, and just really being there with the experience. It sounds like a beautiful journey. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Instead of throwing the keys, take a deep
Yeah.
breath. Anyway, yes, thank you so much. I'm really glad you had me on, and we need to talk again.
Yeah, I'm going to end, so don't hang up yet.